Good evening, everyone. My name is Lonnie Malapan. I'm the program manager for PACE with Efficiency Vermont. And next to me is Kayla Moore. She is a program assistant at Efficiency Vermont. And Kayla's going to be helping me monitor the questions that come in. So feel free to just shoot her a question whenever you feel like you have something that you need clarification on, and Kayla will just interject, and I'll try to answer all the questions as we're going along. But I appreciate everyone who can join us tonight. We understand that summer schedules are pretty crazy, so but the session will be recorded as well if you need to view it after. So on the agenda tonight, I'll be giving a quick update on PACE, the status of PACE, what has happened recently, and when you can expect the first subscription period, and then maybe some steps of us moving forward. Then I will go over Vermont's PACE program, some of the legislation, who is eligible, what properties are eligible, and what projects can be financed through PACE. Some of that might be a little bit redundant, but I'll just go over that briefly. And then I will show you the timing of the first subscription period, and kind of go over how long each section lasts. And then we'll talk about the implementation of PACE in Vermont, all the necessary paperwork that needs to be signed in order for participants to take advantage of PACE this first subscription period. So there'll be the program description and guidelines with the resolution and the program administrator agreement, as well as the interlocal contract. So today's PACE, there are currently 45 towns that have voted to create a special assessment district to make PACE financing available. Last year there was about 35, so around 10 towns had voted this past town meeting day, which is great. Recently we have partnered with Opportunities Credit Union to act as the PACE processor. They will be handling some of the program administrator tasks. Efficiency Vermont is not a bank, so we have decided to contract with them. They have a lot of experience doing that type of work. They will be handling all the underwriting, servicing, and billing of the assessments. And then finally, we have secured $1 million for the PACE credit facility after, I'd say, about a year of reaching out to various institutions, banks, and credit facilities. National Bank of Middlebury has stepped up to fund that for us, which is great. And with those two pieces in place, we've been able to determine the date of the first subscription period, which is something that we were waiting for a long time. So September 1st, Opportunities Credit Union will be accepting applications. So just going over some of the PACE legislation for Vermont, it's a little bit different than some of the other PACE programs in the country. The PACE lien in Vermont is subordinate to any other existing property secured liens that were taken out at the time of the PACE assessment. Vermont's PACE program is residential only at this time. We have had some questions about when or if commercial projects would be available to be financed through PACE, and that might be something that's coming down the road, but in the beginning we're just going to stick to residential at this time. There are also two loan loss reserve accounts, and one of them is a mandatory account, and it's paid for by the participating property owners, which is 2% they pay in of the total assessment amount. And then there's also a statewide loan loss reserve account, which is 5% of RGGI funds up to $1 million. And these two reserve accounts are really in place in the event that there is a foreclosure on the accounts. The first one that will go into effect is the 2%, and that will bring the assessment up to current. Efficiency Vermont is available to act as program administrator for towns. We realize that there are a lot of implementation steps that need to happen, and some towns, aren't large enough to handle that kind of thing. So Efficiency Vermont is here to act as the program administrator and administer your town's PACE program. And that's no cost to the town. PACE is paid for by participating property owners. The Department of Financial Regulation will determine the underwriting criteria, and part of the responsibility of the town is to collect delinquent payments, assessment payments. The statute, as it's written, it basically, because PACE is tied to the property and not the participant, the town is the only one that's responsible or qualified to handle those delinquent payments, and so that's where that comes from. And all of these criteria came into place. They were finalized in January of 2012. So who is eligible for PACE financing? PACE participants must own their property. They must certify that there's no overdue payments on mortgages or any other liens secured on the property. And they must have a debt-to-income ratio of less than or equal to 41%. One of the big advantages of PACE is that the expected energy savings that people will see from their projects will be included as income when they're being considered for approval, so that could help some folks. And finally, the homeowners must fully participate in all available rebate and incentive programs for the projects that they're undertaking. And the idea there is that, we're just stretching the PACE money as far as it will go to, buy down people's total assessment costs. Properties that are eligible right now, like I said, only residential is eligible. It can be a primary or a vacation home, but it is 1 to 4 unit owner occupied residential buildings. And they also have to be located in a PACE district with a PACE program. The property must also be current on all taxes and assessments, free of tax, federal, state, or municipal liens, and it must not be subject to a reverse mortgage transaction or default or foreclosure of any other kind. So what projects can be financed through PACE? The minimum assessment amount that can be financed is $3,500, and the maximum assessment amount is $30,000 or 15% of the assessed value of the home, whichever one is less. The PACE assessment and all mortgages and liens on the property must not exceed 90% combined loan to value. Efficiency Vermont, and Burlington Electric put together a list of eligible measures or projects that people can do annually. That list is published on July 1st of every year. We have a list on our website which outlines all the efficiency and renewables. This year we have 2 new additions, which are air source heat pumps, both ductless mini splits and central systems, and the other new measure are electric vehicle charging stations. So repairs and new construction are not eligible to finance through PACE. However, health and safety measures can be included, but must not exceed 50% of the total project cost. So this is what a typical subscription period would look like. This is just rough chunks of time right now, even though it's going to be set for September 1st. Each subscription period, for those of you that don't know, PACE will operate on a subscription period basis, so we'll have likely 2 or 3 per year. So if you can't make it into this first one, there'll be one early next year and probably another one shortly after that. But each subscription period lasts about 4 months. Well, exactly 4 months, and the interest rate will be set 10 days prior to opening that subscription period. So that will be the time when people, homeowners, participants can, submit their project to review from Efficiency Vermont and get the cash flow analysis. So as you can see here, the cash flow and project review lasts 4 weeks. So that will start this time around August 19th and go to around the middle of September. The application period, when homeowners can submit their application after they've had their cash flow analysis, will last 4 weeks, so for the whole month of September. And then the work completion period will fall after that and will last roughly 2.5 months. So this is where we're going to get into kind of the implementation for towns and what towns have to do to make PACE available to their homeowners. As you can see, there's steps 1 through 8 here. In the blue box, step 1 through 3 is where the town has some tasks. They must designate a PACE contact, and we'll talk about that a little bit further in a minute. They must adopt a PACE program, which is outlined in the program description and guidelines. And the select board has to adopt that. And then the town must decide how they would like to implement their PACE program. They can either choose to do it in-house themselves, or as I mentioned before, contract with Efficiency Vermont. So if the town does choose to contract with Efficiency Vermont, that's the steps in the yellow box, 4 through 8. We would be working to design the program materials, just helping participants get information that they needed, accepting applications, which will be handled by the PACE processor, managing the projects through execution. We'll be tracking them every step of the way to make sure everyone is completing everything that they need to. And then we will also be billing participants through the life of the assessment, and that's again something that the PACE processor Opportunities Credit Union would be doing. So designating a PACE contact. The contact really should be a town employee, either the town manager or the town clerk. And it's really what they would be doing is heading up the implementation steps, just making sure the town is on track, providing the select board with any information that they'd need, with guidance from Efficiency Vermont, and also sending agreements or other communications through us, Efficiency Vermont. It's just really nice for us to have one single point of contact, so we're making sure that no information is getting missed. And then you can sign up to receive PACE email updates on our website. The link below is provided, but it is just on the general PACE page. It's efficiencyvermont.com/PACE. So adopting the PACE program, as I mentioned before, the program is outlined in the program description and guidelines. This is an 11-page document that really, like I said, outlines the program eligibility, roles and responsibilities, program parameters, and process and procedures. We kind of ask at this time that you stick with the PACE program that we've designed, and if there's any major changes or things that you're not okay with, we would just ask that you'd contact me so we can talk about it in a little bit more further detail. But the program description and guidelines has to be reviewed by the select board, and they must adopt it. So they should sign the guidelines document. And then to formally pass it, they must also pass and sign the resolution, and that will say that they are okay with the program. And then once those two documents are signed, they can be returned to Efficiency Vermont. The next step, again, is determining how PACE will be implemented in your town. A good document to look at, which is also, I think it's attached actually to the program administrator agreement, but it's the scope of services that Efficiency Vermont would do and the PACE processor. So you can review that, and if you wish to have Efficiency Vermont administer your program, again, the select board would have to review that document and agree to it. They would have to sign that and again return it to Efficiency Vermont. And as I mentioned before, there's no cost to towns if they wish to have Efficiency Vermont administer their program. I would assume that most towns would choose to go this path. And again, that, not a long document, about 7 pages. So Efficiency Vermont can play, 2 roles, like I said. One, we have the role as the energy efficiency utility, which is mandated by the statute. And in this role, we will, again, maintain and publish the list of eligible projects. And again, that is published every July 1st, consulting with Burlington Electric Department as well. We will review and approve projects, making sure that all projects that they're trying to, and all costs actually, that are trying to be financed through PACE are eligible. And then once they have been determined eligible, we will perform a cash flow analysis, which will outline the estimated first-year savings and projected payments. Again, this will just really help the customer, the participant, understand the implications of their project. But whether the project is cash flow positive or negative, it's still eligible through PACE. As EEU, we must also maintain the 2% loan loss reserve account funded by the participating property owners. And we will also provide information about implementation to each municipality that votes it in. The program administrator roles, as I said, will basically be partnering with Opportunities Credit Union to handle some of these tasks. Facilitate financing through the credit facility. We have secured $1 million of the PACE funds out of $20 million. So we'll still be, working and reaching out to other possible investors to see if they, can help sign on with that. And I anticipate that after we have our first successful subscription period, that more towns or more institutions will be willing to sign on. We will provide customer service to any participants that need help with the pre-qualifications, provide materials and process applications for the PACE assessments, which that will be handled by Opportunities Credit Union. We will also provide the letter of approval or denial to customers and just all the materials that they'll need to execute that, and give them general sense of timeline and kind of guide them. And I anticipate this first round that we'll be doing a little bit of hand-holding with folks, as it's a new process for everyone. Continuing the program administrator roles, we will record the reservation with the credit facility. We will record the lien with the town. Efficiency Vermont will be reviewing customer invoices and making sure that everything is approved, and then we will provide OCU the go-ahead to release the funds to the contractors or the customer, whoever has identified as a payee. And then we will be managing the billing throughout the life of the assessment, and we have determined that that's going to be happening on a monthly basis. And then finally, we will be reporting annually to towns and participants about the status of their assessments. So a new one here is the Interlocal Contract, and this is to gain access to the credit facility money. And it's really an agreement between your town and the credit facility. So again, you must review and sign this document and return it to Efficiency Vermont. So that was just a brief overview of the paperwork. Obviously, we don't have, didn't hand it out to everyone yet, but I will be sending out some emails tomorrow to provide everyone with the documentation that they need for these to adopt a program. And we've, left about a month for towns to, review the paperwork and sign it and get their town ready for this first subscription period coming September 1st. So again, if that's too quick of a timeline for your town, there's always a subscription period next year, probably two. And you shouldn't feel bad if you can't get in on this one, but we are doing everything that we can to make that possible. So if anyone has any questions, we can take those now. So again, I just mentioned that we'll be sending emails out to everyone of where they can get the PACE paperwork.
Are all of the necessary documents available on your website now?
They're not available currently. They are finalized. We're actually working on making some updates to the website. I can easily post them on our wiki site, and as I mentioned, that I will also email them out to people directly.
If the town has not signed on, is it too late for September?
No, it's not too late to sign on now. We've gone through many rounds of reviews with this paperwork, and I understand that a lot of towns have lawyers that would like to review this, and we're hoping that a month will be sufficient for people to review that. and understanding that select boards meet once per month, that hopefully this will fit in with everyone's schedules. And again, if anyone needs help executing these documents, I'm always here. My phone number is up here, so you can feel free to give me a call. I think I mentioned this briefly too. There was, talk before about, towns making edits to the documents. And, at this time, I think that we would prefer that people go with the program that we have outlined, and stick with that. And as I mentioned, if there are any major red flags, that you should please give me a call so we can talk about that further.
Are payments monthly?
Yes, payments will be on a monthly schedule. I know that last year when we were kicking things around, we were hoping that the billing could happen on the same schedule as property taxes, but as we were finding out, each town has a very different schedule. Some collect 2 times per year, some collect 4 times per year, and it just was going to be very challenging to accommodate everyone. So we have decided to go with monthly payments, which we were hoping would keep the costs fairly low for people, maybe help, with a default rate, which I don't anticipate will happen very often. Also, I know that I have gotten some questions from folks in towns asking what they can do to help promote PACE. And I always, tell people that they're not expected to be PACE gurus, that we're here, Efficiency Vermont is here to help. You can always call our customer service department, direct people to the website, or give them my contact information, and we'll be happy to walk them through. And as I mentioned, we're updating our web pages to make them a little bit more customer friendly and easy to navigate, as well as drafting up or in the works of making a financing document that can easily be handed out by contractors or energy committees or anywhere that you can. And again, I know that a significant amount of towns made or initiated these documents or executed the documents last year, and are possibly wondering why they have to do it again. With Opportunities Credit Union coming on as our PACE processor, and National Bank of Middlebury signing on, there was some sections of the documents that weren't really captured well. The specifically stuff to do around collecting payments and things of that nature. So we have changes, and we did have to account for those. But to make it easier for people, we will be, tracking all the changes that were made, so it'll be easy for people to know what had changed, so they don't have to go through a complete review again.
Ani, what parts of the town documents can be modified by the town?
We're kind of hoping that you don't make any changes to the documents. The program description and guidelines, originally we had said that you can make minor changes to that, but things like you can make your program more restrictive, but not less. So if you wanted to, I guess in this PACE program that we've outlined, the energy audit isn't required. It's just strongly recommended. So smaller things on that scale, if you wanted to make that required, or if you want your town to only be able to participate in the efficiency projects rather than renewables, we can talk about those kinds of changes. But no town should be making changes to the interlocal contract or the program administrator agreement.
So PACE does cover both energy efficiency projects and renewables.
PACE does account for both efficiency and renewable projects. I'm trying to think of some of the lists that we have, but I mentioned the 2 new additions. Home performance with Energy Star projects are eligible with the air sealing and insulation, water heaters, things like windows and doors. I said the heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, pellet central pellet systems, and then PV, electric, and solar and wind. Those can all be included. Some of the analysis will be done on a custom basis, though. So, does anyone else have any other questions, relating to the paperwork or just general questions about the PACE program? All right, it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so I think that, we can wrap up for tonight. Again, I will email all documents out to people tomorrow, and, if you have any other one?
Is there a deadline for towns to sign?
There's no deadline for towns to sign. As I, mentioned about the subscription period, we will be starting the cash flow analysis around August 19th, but we're giving towns the month of August to get this stuff in. So if it takes you till September 1st, that's fine. If it takes you till the end of the year, that's also fine. Just knowing that your town would not be able to participate in this first round of the subscription period, that you just have to wait. I think we're likely to have the next one in February of 2014. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you if you have any questions.